Get it right here. So there's that funky slide guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday, live at 5. And the Evil FB Network, Rumble, YouTube. Check us out, subscribe. Type in IE Newswire on Rumble. There goes my nice stuff again. Going absolutely flippin' haywire. Gotta love all this high technology goodies going on. Lots of going on. Is the Howard say Prop 13 Act going to be on or off? That deadline will come up here, well, should be now. There's been lots of negotiations going back and forth. We'll give you the latest renditions on that. Banning is in terrible shape. According to a grand jury report that just came out, and this grand jury's been on a roll here, addressing a lot of issues on the pike. Big Second Amendment win in the Supreme Court, 6-3 ruling supporting your right to keep and bear arms. We'll give you the latest on that. But on this thunderous Thursday, the FIM Speedway Grand Prix, another thing, never quit, as they say. Hopefully, here we go. We thought, maybe it'll play, maybe it won't.
Gets himself to the front. It comes Mickelson through in the second place. Bewley dropped in third. He's out the back with Quebec roaring around the outside. But Jack Holder, gate number 2. He's doing it again. He did it in Warsaw. Backed himself then. He's doing it again here in the National Speedway Stadium. And he's flying in front. Bewley roaring around the outside.
Yeah, Bewley's doing what Bewley does. He's making a bit more ground up with every single lap. He's doing big laps. He's going to get the better of Mickelson here. I tell you what, he's got every chance of getting around Jack Holder.
Here we go then, keep your eyes on Dan Bewley, we need to be watching it, there we go! Dan Bewley coming on around the outside, Jack Holder electing to go tight, there's a lap to go, Dan Bewley running down the fence. Can he get to the front? It's going to be awfully tight with less than a lap to go, we've done it!
He's going to do it.
Oh my goodness gracious me, that is some sensational ride from Dan Bewley, crowd on their foot. He gets himself to he gets himself to the front. It comes Mickelson.
When you hit the off button, the stuff never shuts off. When you hit the on button, it never starts until you hit it 10 times. But that was great ride. Hauling ass on the high side. Dan Bewley didn't give up. Cracked the throttle wide open, held it down, and won an exciting speedway finish back there at the FIM Speedway Grand Prix. Exciting roll for our thunderous Thursday. You know, anytime, I don't care if you go to the small claims court, to the Supreme Court. It's a roll of the dice, crapshoot. It can go either way. In the latest right to keep and bear arms case, Second Amendment, Wolford versus Lopez in Hawaii, Hawaii decided to come up with a law and said, even if you had a concealed carry permit, if you had a concealed carry weapon and you were doing it and you were gassing up the gas station, got in, you were technically violating the law because you didn't have permission from the property owner. Well, the Supreme Court said, screw that. If it's a public place and you got a CCW, no local, state, whatever jurisdiction can say you can no longer have that. In a 6-3 ruling, it came down. Here's Harmeet Dillon, our Associate Department of Justice Attorney for Civil Rights.
I'm really excited to tell you about a breaking and important new ruling under the Second Amendment from the United States Supreme Court applying the Bruin test. So Hawaii passed a law that purported to flip the presumption of carrying a firearm onto private property by saying that you could only carry onto private property, a business or a home, if the owner of the property clearly posted that it was permitted to do so. Now, the presumption is the opposite in the United States historically. This is called a vampire law after Bram Stoker's Dracula, in which it was said that a vampire could only enter the property with the permission of the owner. And Hawaii had argued that because of its special spirit of aloha in the state, it didn't have to honor the normal Second Amendment presumptions. Well, the United States Supreme Court ruled otherwise, and for that, we at the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice say mahalo, thank you, with gratitude to the Supreme Court for applying Bruin as follows. The court first held that clearly the plaintiffs in this case, challenging this limitation under Hawaii law, were seeking to carry firearms for a lawful purpose, self-defense. And secondly, the court held that there was no historical analog dating back to the time of the Second Amendment's original enactment that would justify this type of a limitation. Now, at the Supreme Court, where I was privileged to witness the able argument, the state of Hawaii argued that the Reconstruction black codes were a good reason or a good analog, but the court was particularly contemptuous of this argument and said that was clearly not an analog. And so today, throughout the United States, I think you're going to be seeing challenges to other vampire statutes that you see on the books in some of the jurisdictions that don't like the Second Amendment. And so it's a great day for liberty here. And we at the Civil Rights Division and our colleagues at the Department of Justice are extremely proud to always stand up for the rights of American citizens who are law-abiding to carry their firearms for a lawful purpose.
Again, mahalo, thank you to the Supreme Court for overturning that odious Hawaii ruling. So hopefully Harmeet Dillon is correct that the Bruin doctrine will be used to overturn more of this stupidity. I think we need to bring a complete case in front of the Supreme Court as it is. I don't think we've ever had, it looks like, on Second Amendment issues, it looks like we've been getting a 6-3 all across the board, just like we did today. Of course, tomorrow is the big birthright citizenship, or we think so, ruling. I'm not expecting them to withhold the Trump deal, but you never know. It's always a crapshoot when you go to court. But Trump was victorious on this and other big issues on illegal immigration and more. We'll get and see what's happening with the Save Prop 13 Act, what is going to be on the ballot, what deals may have been struck on the rest of today's show. Yes, we'll get an update. It is officially closed for entities who have qualified, like Howard Jarvis, Carl DeMeo with the voter ID, Howard Jarvis with Save Prop 13 Act. 5 o'clock was the last day you had to withdraw that. Of course, we had Susan Shelley on yesterday. No way we're not withdrawing it. Today, John Copal, president of HGTA, put out a statement. Yes, okay, we'll withdraw it if you put it on the ballot, changing or per our direction. We'll do it. There's a lot of intrigue going on. I'm still checking to see officially, give it a few minutes. Because again, today, 5 o'clock, which was about 10 minutes ago, was the drop dead deadline on if you were going to withdraw it. So we'll see what's going to be on the ballot for Save Prop 13. There's going to be one way or the other. There's been a lot of rumors. There's been some postings of some potential skullduggery going on across the board. We may have today a little bit, but coming into next week, why Karen Bass said, oh, there's a deal being struck on the Save Prop 13 Act, and much, much more. But hey, we got the big victory there in Hawaii on the second A, which Harmeen Dillon very, very, very nicely explained on why the court ruled as they did. So thank you to the 6 justices who approved that message. Another victory for Trump. On top of that, Trump had some other victories in the Supreme Court. One, there was a Monsanto that shielded them from cancer victims. Not real happy about that. Of course, Wolford versus Lopez, 6-3, the Second Amendment case. Mullen versus Al Arturo Ladeo. Asylum seekers stopped at the border or turned back in Mexico. The court says you haven't arrived in America yet, so no right to apply for asylum. So unless you can't be in Mexico or Guatemala or Beijing, China and claim asylum, you actually have to be on American soil. The second one, that was the first Trump victory in addressing illegal immigration. The other one was Mullen versus Doe. The conservative majority ruled that the Trump administration can end temporary protected status for migrants fleeing violence, natural disasters in Haiti and Syria. That the courts cannot review the federal government's declaration in regard to TPS, or temporary status. Some of them have been here on temporary status since the 90s. There's, 350,000 Haitians. I think about 7,000 from Syria. Oh, when they said, it's time to go back. Oh, no, we can't go back. We'll be just tortured and killed and all this other stuff. So this was another great ruling from the Supreme Court. Here's Stephen Miller, Deputy Chief of Staff, on Fox News, addressing this issue. Hopefully, here we go.
In the first Trump administration, President Trump ended TPS for Haitian illegals and was frozen by the courts. The Biden administration came in. They flew Haitians right over the border by airplane, dumped them into American towns all over the country, particularly in Springfield, Ohio, destroying these tight-knit communities, and gave them all, again, this TPS, temporary protected status, which gives them unfettered access to welfare and other benefits in the United States. Trump ended that benefit again here in the second term, even though the statute says that it is judicially unreviewable, meaning Congress said the courts can't review it. Our rogue radical judges stymied that for the last 16 months, and again, now here we are because of the Supreme Court, and we can finally remove these Haitian illegal migrants from the United States. It is a momentous victory, albeit this should have never taken 10 years. It is outrageous that we have judges in this country who continue to supplant their own radical beliefs for the democratic views and judgments of hardworking American citizens.
Stephen Miller's right on all counts. One, it shouldn't take 10 years to figure this stuff out. Although we might not have got a 6-3 ruling again like we did if we didn't have this Supreme Court, so be careful what you wish for. At least finally we did get the right decision. Remember Springfield, Ohio? Remember they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. That's what Stephen Miller's referring to about the Haitians that were flown in there, and then they bring their culture into the United States. It's not what we have set up. You are supposed to adapt to the culture of the United States when you are granted asylum, or we're allowing you to apply for citizenship, or however it works. We are not importing Haiti into the United States, or Guatemala, or China, or Russia, or wherever. Immigration has to work for everybody. It did prior to 1914 when we did not have a welfare state, as we played yesterday from the great Milton Friedman. And he's just as right as when he said that 30 years ago. Vaya caramba. This stuff is so blatantly simple. Well, it would seem. Yet, it's absolutely mind-boggling that we do not get any sort of relief, and if we do, it takes us 10 flipping years to do it. So, according to Ashley Zavala, ACA 22 passes, 35-1. Senator Warner is no. Okay, now we wait to see if Coppell is okay with it. That she posted an hour ago. So we shall see. There may be a different ballot measure than the Save Prop 13 Act. HJTA I'm seeing so far. I don't think has put out that they have accepted it and that they pulled it. They would have had to do that within the hour, or within the, up to the last 20 minutes. So we shall see. We're waiting for definitive word of what's going on with this chaotic situation out here. Of that, we're just in as dark as all of us, but we'll keep refreshing and checking. We're checking the HJTA site, Ashley Zavala, Jeremy White, who's been covering this pretty good on that. So Jeremy White posted, it's after 5 o'clock, June 25th. Do you know where your California wealth tax initiative is? It's on the November ballot, despite Gavin Newsom's best effort. So that's going to be on. We have not heard word yet to see what's happened with the Save Prop 13 Act. We'll keep you apprised. This is something that was, let's say, inherently interesting, as they say. When you boil all this stuff down, and you look, we were cooking on Doge. When Trump got in, we had Doge. It looked like, yeah, we're finding tons of fraud, waste, and abuse. Elon Musk was on the other day with Joe Rogan. and had this to say.
Yeah.
And so, what was the most shocking pushback that you got when you started implementing Doge, when you started investigating into where money was going?
Well, I guess I should have anticipated this, but while most of the fraudulent government payments especially to the NGOs, go to the Democrats, most of it, like, I don't know, for argument's sake, let's say 80%, maybe 90%, 10 to 20% of it does go to Republicans. And so when we turn off funding to a fraudulent NGO, we'd get complaints from whatever the 10% of Republicans who were receiving the money, and they would, they would very loudly complain, because the honest answer is the Republicans are partly, they're receiving some of the fraud too.
So what Elon Musk is saying, in my view, is Republicans are the cheap trailer park whores in this rendition. The rats get 90% of the fraud. Republicans get 10%, but then they say that's all they need, and they can keep their gravy train rolling. And this was, not that Elon Musk is not a very brilliant person and does that, but like he said, I should have anticipated this. And that's the challenge when people say, oh, we need a business person per se to come in and run government. Which, in its place, is okay, and you need that experience. But the government machine, especially now in the United States, is so convoluted, is so just insane. And the procedures and everything, and establishment that's been so entrenched, and the powers between the establishment working with the public employees unions, working with, foreign entities, they've entrenched and got in so deep, as Trump called it, the swamp is so deep and so toxic that even a guy as brilliant as Elon Musk said, holy crap, I don't know how to deal with this. And that's what you're seeing in this. Here's more with Musk and Joe Rogan.
They're getting a big.
Jesus.
Yeah. I want to be clear. It's not like the Republican Party is some
No.
ultra pure paragon of virtue here.
No.
Okay.
No. Well, you see that with the...
That's what I have been telling you, and that's why I say establishment Republicans are much more dangerous than Democrats. At least Democrats, and look at the new polling, 2/3 of the Democratic Party now think it's okay. Socialism, communism, dictatorship is fine. And so probably really, well, about half of your elected Republicans are too. Probably 111% now of your elected Democrats. And guys like Rogan, like Jesus, or like with the perplexed look of like, oh, how did this happen? I can't believe it. Because you, like Joe Rogan, stuck his head up his ass and tried to deny all the stuff was going on, or supported the yo-yos that were doing this. But hey, he's on UFC or whatever, wrestling and all that, and he's a commentator and all, yada, yada, yada. And he says the F word all the time in his podcast. And the under 50 crowd thinks he's a god. Joe Rogan should have anticipated this. So should have Elon Musk. Few guys like me and Ron and Rand Paul and that sort have been saying this for decades.
Congressional insider trading. It's across the board.
Yeah.
It's left and right.
I mean, the whole uniparty criticism has some validity to it. You know?
The whole uniparty criticism, insider trading. And I like Marjorie Taylor Greene, thought she was good when she first came in. But she walked out the door with $24 frickin' million. Now, just like Hillary Clinton with the cattle futures thing, all of a sudden she just didn't wake up once she got into Congress and became this brilliant investor. So some of these that hold themselves up are virtuous or that. This is what Elon is telling you. And probably why he finally eventually just threw up his hands and said, to hell, I'm going to ruin all my companies if I keep this up. You know, there wouldn't be no SpaceX or 4,000 new millionaires or anything else. He would have got eaten alive. I wish he would have stayed in the fight, but he probably thought it was in his best interest to just walk away from the Doge and all the BS.
40 seconds, 40 seconds.
We'll pick this up and more as we get to the rest of the show on KMET, as Jesse has said. We'll get to the disaster the city of Banning is, according to a new grand jury report. Get on the local IE stuff, and maybe you might not have electricity to run this radio station. We all might be off the air if the grand jury report is correct, but we should see.
5 seconds. Here we go.
Phone app today. IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
There's that funky slide guitar music that comes out every Monday through Friday, live at 5:30 on the Mighty Met, 1490 AM. Broadcasting all over the Inland Empire in the aforementioned AM band, joining our vast video audience in the evil FB network YouTube. Check us out, subscribe. Type in I News where Roy Bleckert. You'll see my nice smiling, shining face. Wow. What a day. Still haven't found out definitively if the Save Prop 13 Act is still on the ballot or they made a deal to compromise the issue. We're still refreshing. We're still hitting the button like a heroin-filled rabbit in the old study back in the day, you can see. See what's up on that. 5 o'clock today was the last drop-dead deadline that they had to pull any ballot measure that had qualified. So we're going to check that. If we don't have a definitive answer, we'll have one tomorrow. And it's starting to come to light a little bit. I don't know if we'll have it tomorrow, but I think next week will be clear. Maybe more people will start fleshing out the information. Jeremy White alluded to it in Politico. When Karen Bass said, oh, yeah, we got a deal, her and Newsom were probably pulling some real heavyweight skullduggery. Possible. We don't know. We haven't had it confirmed yet. Speculation. Allegedly, of that. We'll get to the latest on that, and hopefully we can put a definitive answer what is actually going to be on the ballot here in November of 26. Going to be real important. Second Amendment victory extraordinaire. The Hawaii case, Hawaii came up with this theory that, oh, just because we're Hawaiians, even if you have a CCW or anything, if you go to a public place like a gas station, let's say you have a legit, even if you have a CCW, concealed carry permit, from the state of Hawaii, and you don't have permission from the owner explicitly, you're technically in violation of the law. Well, in the 6-3 ruling today, the Supreme Court said, stuff it up your rear end, Hawaii. Mahalo, thank you to the Supreme Court in a 6-3 ruling. They said, no way. The Second Amendment means you have a right to keep and bear arms. That means in your home. Well, I don't know if that they applied the Bruin test. We had Harmeet Dillon. You can watch her first part of the show on IE Newswire. Harmeet Dillon gave a really good explanation of how they used the Bruin test as a case precedent and said, no, we're reversing this. We're reversing the stupidity of Hawaii. The Supremacy Clause kicks in. You cannot infringe on all Americans' Second Amendment rights. Big victory. 2 other big victories on illegal immigration from the Trump administration. They said, yes, Trump absolutely, and exclusively as president or whoever's POTUS has the right to pull temporary status of asylum seekers and send them back. They also said, in order to get asylum, you have to be on United States soil. In another case, Mullen versus Al Ortolabo. So Mullen versus Doe, if POTUS says you're on a temporary asylum permit, and he says, no, you're not, you're going back to whatever country you came from. And he has that exclusive authority. So we had 3 big freedom and liberty rulings from the Supreme Court today. The big one, birthright citizenship. I don't know if they're going to overturn that ruling where the Trump administration sued. It was kind of a hostile oral argument, but as we say, you never know. It's a crapshoot. If you're going into small claims court to the Supreme Court or anywhere in between that says court, you roll the dice, you put the marble on red or black and you roll it, and it could go either way. So we'll see tomorrow on that ruling and how it shakes out. One of the more disturbing issues that came out of the Riverside County Grand Jury report pertains to the city of Banning, where the broadcast of this show on KMET 1490 emanates all over the Inland Empire. So this was posted in Banning Community Voice and Accountability Group. Riverside County Grand Jury has released a report titled Banning Exceedingly Alarmingly Mismanaged. According to a grand jury, the Riverside County Grand Jury, the city of Banning is facing a significant financial and administrative crisis tied to management, lack of oversight, weak internal controls, personnel turnover, outdated policies, and major issues within the Banning Electric Utility. The biggest issue in the report, now this has got to be a big one because all of those issues are humongously big. The biggest issue in the report is the Banning Electric Utility, also known as BEU. The grand jury found that BEU went from a $31 million surplus in 2018 to a $9 million deficit in 22. Now, to set some context, the city of Banning for many years has had their own electric utility. They run it kind of like the one started in Moreno Valley or like Riverside Public Utilities, LA Department of Water Power and such. And I think they do get power from SoCal Edison, but they have their own utility company, and they're responsible for making it run, collecting, making sure electricity is delivered, collecting the money, making sure that reliable power is delivered to the city of Banning residents, and so forth. The report raises concerns about whether BEU money was transferred to support other parts of the city after voters rejected Measure P in 2018. Measure P would have allowed limited transfers from Banning electric utility surplus revenue into the city's general fund. Voters rejected it. According to the report, multiple sources stated that Banning electric utility revenue may still have been transferred to the general fund after the rejection, and those transfers would be in violation of Prop 26 and 218 if confirmed. Been around this boat a gazillion times. Riverside Public Utility, all that. We've had major issues with that, with the crew. The Marinos sued, 15 years ago, and settled, and then they finally had to put it on the tax roll or put it before the voters for Prop 26 and 218. Then there's still been questions about that. We've had Jason Hunter on many times as there's been charges and countercharges. This appears not to look very good, at best, for the city of Banning and its residents. This matters, as the report says, because BEU money is not supposed to be treated like a blank check. Utility revenue is supposed to be tied to reasonable costs of providing electric service. If money was moved out improperly, residents deserve a full accounting and reimbursement. The report also raises concerns about the city's cost allocation plan called the CAP. This is the system used to charge departments for shared services like finance, HR, payroll, and legal services. The grand jury also found serious errors and lack of internal controls in the cost allocation plan. The report also discusses unusual transfers from BEU, including $1.84 million administrative services transfer that appeared out of place. The billing crisis is also a major part of the report. The grand jury says Banning is experiencing a monumental billing crisis due to antiquated billing system and failed software rollout. Where does this sound? Gavin Newsom, the 911 system, the DMV overhaul in the state. Can any of these government agencies, do they have the competence to do the job correctly? The answer appears in the majority of the time a big absolutely they do not. No, they don't. They can't get the job done. $31 million surplus. At least in the electric utility should be running at 111% efficiency. They should be getting awards. Well, from 1918 or 2018, maybe 1918 too. Banning's been around a long time. There should be no problems. They had plenty of money to have at least in the utility, the best and the brightest of a billing system. In plain English, residents are now dealing with the consequences of years of poor decisions and outdated systems and weak oversight. The personnel section is also alarming. The report says Banning has had 10 city managers over the previous 12 years, with 8 of them serving as interim city manager. It also says the finance department has a major turnover on that. Man, and to sum it up, there's 10 recommendations. But to sum it up, they're really saying Banning is AFU from top to bottom. The city of Banning. Hey, you elected Colleen Wallace. Another de facto DSA communist member is on your city council and more. It's been a very, very interesting role when you did look at the Firestorm Cluster Foxtrot going down in Riverside with the city manager in and out, his wife suing, charges, counter charges. Like I said, Riverside is turning itself into a bigger clown show than Marina Valley. And that's absolutely saying something. The once proud city of Banning, Square D, Deutsche Company, is now being run into the ground. It's an exasperating situation. Who knows if it will get fixed, but we will see. We'll see if the grand jury report helps straighten things out for the good people of Banning, California. Steve Hilton says, hey, elect me governor, and I will do this. CBC 7 report.
Tonight, Hilton is also vowing to investigate what he calls wrongdoing during Governor Gavin Newsom's administration. Our political reporter Josh Haskell has the interview.
As former Fox News host Steve Hilton launches his runoff election campaign for governor against Democrat Javier Becerra, Hilton isn't running away from President Trump's endorsement. Instead, he says it's the only thing Democrats can attack him on.
But the president endorses whoever he wants to endorse or not endorse. It doesn't change the fact that what I'm fighting for is lower gas, lower tax, dealing with the cost of living, practical things for Californians. Most of those things are affected by the policy decisions we make here in California. And I think that's why you've got a majority of Californians now saying we need to change direction. So you got the 29% approval of President Trump, but in that poll, but you've got 57% who say that California is on the wrong track and needs change. And that's the basis of what I think will be a victory for change in November that's going to surprise a lot of people.
So if President Trump calls you tomorrow and says, hey, Steve, I'm coming out to California, I'm going to campaign for you, what would you say to that?
Well, I think what I focused on is the policy cooperation. You know, for example, one of the ways we get to $3 gas, my plan, is to make sure that instead of importing oil from halfway around the world on giant super tankers, that's actually bad for the environment, let's use California oil.
Hilton was born in the UK, where he served as director of strategy for former Prime Minister David Cameron, and then moved to California in 2012, becoming a U.S. citizen in 2021. A small business owner, Hilton lives in Northern California with his wife, a tech industry executive, and their 2 sons. On the campaign trail, Hilton has discussed launching California's own version of Doge and investigating fraud. But when asked about this during our interview, Hilton discussed investigating something else.
We had the longest and most cruel lockdowns and school closures in the country. And some of that, I suspect, was the result of a corrupt relationship between the politicians who made the decisions and the unions who fund them. And that's something I think we got to look at. We can't just forget all these things. Real pain was caused. Kids lost years of learning.
If elected governor, you plan to investigate the lockdowns from 6 years ago from COVID?
Yeah, very much so. We need and to make sure that nothing like that ever happens again. Look at that. We're still living with the costs. I mean, you talk about the budget, the bloat in the budget. A lot of that started during the pandemic, and it's still there.
Is this the best use of government funds to investigate the lockdowns from 6 years ago?
It's going to be done in 6 months. That's what I've announced. It's not going to be a lot of money, and it's not going to take a lot of time, because I think we'll get the answer very quickly.
If elected, Hilton has pledged to shrink the size of state government, and under his plan, Californians would pay no state income tax on their first $150,000 of income. Income above $150,000 would be taxed at an 8% rate.
74% of registered voters in California don't approve of the work that ICE is doing. Would you work with ICE?
Well, it's the law. I mean, you've got to uphold the law.
It's unclear how Hilton would get his proposals through the Democratic supermajority in Sacramento. California hasn't elected a Republican governor in more than 15 years.
The state of California and Governor Newsom have taken a number of steps to protect reproductive freedom. Patient privacy they've allowed for, including more access to abortion medications. What would your approach be to that?
Well, I think this is a really complicated issue. First of all, the governor has no real, on the basic question of these rights, the right to an abortion, that is something that's now enshrined in California's Constitution as of 2022. That's not going to change.
We're working on setting up an interview with Hilton's opponent, Javier Becerra, for...
What's going to be interesting to see if this is going to be a puff piece, right? Javier Becerra. Notice what Hilton got the challenging questions. It's going to be very interesting to see how that works out. We're hitting the refresh button. We don't see no definitive answer if the say Prop 13 Act as was submitted and approved to be on the ballot is going to be on the ballot, or if HJTA withdrew it. We're still not getting a definite on that. We are getting a definite. The billionaire's tax will be on the ballot despite Newsom's effort to have it removed, so that will definitely be on the California ballot. No reporting. I would figure by now somebody would have made a statement, because by 5 o'clock, John Coppell of HJTA either had to say yes or no to the deal that was being proposed. So, again, very interesting times that we are in. Some of the things that make you shake your head sometimes. Here's a CBS LA report. We thought.
Not only is he accused of secretly recording lifeguards as they changed, but also of sharing the images with friends.
We're experiencing
serious criminal charges have been filed in Orange County against a former high-ranking California State Park superintendent. Kevin Pearsall is accused of secretly recording nearly 24 male employees, including lifeguards, in a locker room at headquarters at Bolsa Chica State Beach. Officials say he shared some of the nude images with friends.
These employees had an expectation of privacy, and that expectation of privacy was completely violated by somebody who they were supposed to be trusting.
According to the DA, a state park officer found a USB stick behind me here inside of the men's locker room last summer at Bolsa Chica State Beach. It included, allegedly, videos of state employees undressing. The CHP investigated the case and found cameras inside of that locker room that were recording video and audio for nearly a year.
People have no regard for other people. It's sad, it's disgusting.
Pearsall, who is 59 from Long Beach, retired last July after he was placed on administrative leave during the investigation. He's been charged with 5 felony counts of eavesdropping, 23 misdemeanor counts of secretly filming, and 3 misdemeanor counts of unlawful dissemination of private recordings.
Pearsall is charged with then distributing some of those images involving at least 3 individuals in various stages of dress, and then making sexually graphic comments about his employees' physical attributes.
State Park said in a statement that as soon as the allegations came to light, an investigation was requested. Quote, California State Parks takes these charges very seriously and has fully cooperated with law enforcement through every step of the investigation. Pearsall, if convicted, faces a maximum of 18 years, 8 months in prison. In Huntington Beach, Michelle Geely, CBS LA.
I don't know. There's some, I guess through history there's always been some twisted minds. I guess technology has just enhanced that exponentially, of all the things you didn't think you would ever see or hear, or why? I don't know. We're going broke. School districts, cities, states, the world. We got public employees making porno videos. Unbeknownst to their colleagues that they're doing this. Sometimes it just makes you wonder. Still haven't got her. I guess we'll have to wait till tomorrow when we come on. See if the Save Prop 13 Act, as we sign the signatures for to get it on the ballot, is going to be on, or there was a deal cut, or what was all going on behind the scenes. Man, the intrigue of everything is very deep. Makes all this stuff interesting. Real life is off the charts. Way more entertaining than anything they're putting you on the 3x5 screen or the big screen or the tube or anything else. Because you know that's make-believe. This stuff is reality, and it's even ruder, cruder, and lewder than what they put on. Oh, man. Well, just about ready to end the Practice Friday show for the day. We'll be on tomorrow with Faster Than You Friday. I'm sure going to be a lot of stuff coming up. We'll cover it, as we say, like nobody's business. And with the unique eclectic style that only you can get here. Man, what a week so far. If it will play. As we usually say at this time. Mandatory, you're back here 24 hours wide. You're the best darn show in the whole wide world. Till then, see ya.
Have a great night.
You got it.